everyone, and welcome. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basolyahe coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Tonight, we have updates from several of our correspondents across the U.S. Chai Masaka in Waldorf, Maryland.
Maryland releases travel advisory, expands mask requirement.
Carlo Valdez in Union Township reports about New Jersey schools to remain closed for the new academic year. Lovely Anderson in Fort Worth, Texas.
Texas governor visits the Rio Grande Valley to assess Hurricane Hanna recovery efforts. Corpus Christi resident shares hurricane experience.
Michael Hudson in Everett reports about Washington State's ground zero for COVID-19 has been reported without positive cases. Prorrogación in North Hills, California.
A 4.2 quake shakes Los Angeles.
Aika Chong in Fremont, California reports about Bay Area counties looking to implement a no mask, pay a fine rule. And for EBC Sports, Melissa Potes in Orlando reports on Tampa Bay head coach talking about the upcoming season and new quarterback Tom Brady. Later on, we get to find out a variety of yummy breakfast meals our correspondents love. But first, an overview of how the world looks now. According to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University in Medicine, as of 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursday, July 30, 2020, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now more than 17,300,000. This includes more than 4,400,000 in the U.S. Sadly, this virus has claimed over 668,000 lives worldwide. This number includes more than 151,000 in the U.S. Our coverage begins now. The World Health Organization on Thursday warned that spikes in coronavirus transmission in a number of countries were being driven by young people letting down their guard. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus told a virtual news conference in Geneva, young people are not invincible.
Young people must take the same precautions to protect themselves and protect others as everyone else. They can be leaders. They should be leaders and drivers of change.
While the pandemic, which has killed nearly 670,000 and infected more than 17 million people worldwide, has disproportionately impacted the elderly and people with pre-existing conditions, he stressed that younger people are at risk too. He lamented that a major challenge in trying to rein in the novel coronavirus was convincing younger people of this risk. He said there was evidence that spikes of cases in some countries are being driven in part by younger people letting down their guard during the Northern Hemisphere summer. WHO's technical lead for COVID-19, Maria Van Kerkhove, lamented in particular that nightclubs in a number of places have become amplifiers of transmission.
The majority of young people who are infected tend to have more mild disease, but that is not always consistent. We know that young people can develop severe disease, we know that young people can end up in ICU, and we know that young people can die. So we are consistently seeing nightclubs as being amplifiers of transmission. And this is very unfortunate because we know that young people want to resume normal activities. But there are situations where the virus, if it's present, can take hold and it can transmit efficiently.
And Dr. Ghebreyesus insisted that young people must take the same precautions to protect themselves and protect others as everyone else. He said young people can be infected, young people can die, and young people can transmit the virus to others. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo appears on Capitol Hill at a hearing before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, where he is asked if the president can delay the presidential election. Let's take a look.
In the end, the Department of Justice, others will make that legal determination. We all should want, I know you do too, Senator Kaine, want to make sure we have an election that everyone is confident in. That's not only free,
Are you indifferent to the date of the election?
It should happen lawfully.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for the record, because you may not want to comment on it, but I do think it's important. A president cannot delay an election. The date of the election is established by Congress. It was established in 1845. There is no ability for a president to delay an election. And I don't think it's that hard a question, or one that should lead to any equivocation by somebody who's fourth in line of succession to be president of the United States.
Pompeo also addressed the question about the State Department's involvement in the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Germany.
6 figures of soldiers there. Germany is no longer a frontline state. As for our strategic effort, General Secretary Stoltenberg, NATO commander, was very much in the process of helping us think this through. I saw comments out of Russia this morning that are different than you described, that viewed the actions that we took as threatening, because we will have soldiers that are deployed closer to the Russian border. This was a thoughtful process. The military piece of this run out of the Pentagon largely, but State Department was fully involved in the strategic pieces of this, and I am very confident that our mission to deter Russia, the NATO mission to deter Russia, we are still fully capable of executing. The precise number was 200,000 early, about 100 and some thousand when I was there. Conditions have changed around the world, and our forces need to be repositioned to appropriately confront today's challenges.
Pompeo also talked about his conversations with his Russian counterpart about reports that bounties were allegedly placed on the heads of U.S. service personnel in Afghanistan.
Very careful about what's public record and what's intelligence-based, but yes, I can assure you and the American people that each time I've spoken with Foreign Minister Lavrov, I've raised all of the issues that put any American interest at risk, whether that's our soldiers on the ground in Syria, soldiers on the ground in Afghanistan, the activities that are taking place in Libya, the actions in Ukraine. Each and every one of these that potentially threaten American interests are things that I raised in my conversations with Foreign Minister Lavrov, and I speak with him with some frequency. Make no mistake about it. The proper people have been aware of every single threat to our soldiers on the ground in Afghanistan, whether that was General Miller or my team at the embassy there in Kabul. Anytime there was a tactical threat on the lives or the health or the safety and security or our assets in place, we have raised this with our Russian counterparts, not only at my level, but Ambassador Sullivan and every one of our team that interacts with the Russians. We've made very clear our expectations.
When we come back, updates from our Eagle News correspondents. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us. You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Bosso-Yahe in Los Angeles, California. Maryland releases its travel advisory and expands mask requirement. In Waldorf, Chai Masaka has the story.
Thank you. Upon the directive of Governor Larry Hogan, the Maryland Department of Health issued a public health advisory strongly advising all Marylanders against out-of-state travels, whether personal, family, or business-related. Based on the advisory now in effect, any out-of-state travelers should submit to a COVID-19 testing upon arrival in Maryland or within 72 hours before their travel to Maryland, and must self-quarantine while awaiting results. The self-quarantine requirement does not apply to essential workers who travel to or return to Maryland to perform essential work. It also exempts employee commuters who travel to Maryland on a daily basis and submit to COVID-19 screening procedures in their workplace. Out-of-state visitors are also encouraged to submit to COVID-19 testing within 72 hours prior to their arrival and must stay at home between their test and arrival to Maryland, or must quarantine in their hotel. They are advised to cancel their trip if their test result is positive. The public health advisory singles out travels to states with more than 10% positivity rate, which, according to the list provided by the United States Laboratory Testing, now include Florida, Texas, Georgia, Louisiana, Arizona, Alabama, South Carolina, Nebraska, and Idaho. Travels to this state require COVID-19 testing upon return to Maryland and self-quarantine at home until results of the tests are received. The mandatory precautionary measures, however, do not apply to travels to and from Virginia and Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, effective July 31, 2020 at 5 p.m., the masking requirement in Maryland will be expanded. Through an order signed by Hogan, all persons older than 5 will be required to wear masks in public places of businesses across Maryland, which include retail stores, pharmacies, banks, and shared areas in offices. This order supersedes the one Hogan signed in April, which requires the wearing of masks only in grocery stores, pharmacies, and public transit. Face coverings will also be required in outdoor public areas, such as farmers market and marinas, whenever social distancing is not possible. In addition to these safety measures, and due to the recent increase of hospitalizations, the state of Maryland is also prompted to pause for further reopening plans. Hogan said that Marylanders have reached a critical point where they can continue to make progress and head to the right direction, or ignore the warnings and spike back up like much of the rest of the country. He said that Marylanders have come too far together to lose the progress they have made on the road to health and economic recovery. In Waldorf, Maryland, Chai Masagka, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Chai, how do you feel about Maryland's capability in implementing this travel and testing control issued by the Maryland Department of Health?
I feel happy what Maryland is doing right now, especially when it comes to testing. I think the state of Maryland has really ramped up its testing, considering that it's one of the pillars of Maryland's roadmap to recovery. We have opened a lot of testing sites. In fact, today, Governor Hogan has just announced the opening of 3 new testing sites. And what's good about this, Alan, is that some testing sites do not require doctor's orders and appointments, so they make testing really accessible to Marylanders. And so far as travel advisory is concerned, well, we can see that there's no report of spike in Maryland. That only shows that what Maryland is doing is really effective and it's really working. Alan.
Well, Chai, no surprise there that it would make you and many other people happy. Speaking of happy, a little bit later on in our broadcast, we're going to be talking about good morning meals. And so we want to just ask you, if we're going to classify your good morning meal, would you classify it more salty, more sweet, or a different classification? Can you give us a little bit of a hint?
Both. I try to have both, Alan. If I eat salty, I need to have something sweet, and vice versa. So I have both.
Well, as you can tell, that makes me happy too. Well, we can't wait to hear from you about what your good morning meal is. Thank you so much for your report.
Thank you, Alan.
New Jersey schools will remain closed for the new academic year. In Union Township, Carlo Valdez has the details.
Thanks, Alan. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, 3 New Jersey lawmakers say they plan to introduce legislation to require school districts to keep their buildings closed. They would only have to offer remote instructions for the new school year. This bill goes against Governor Murphy and the State Department of Education that asked for all public school districts to offer at least some in-person learning for the 2020-2021 school year. According to the proposed bill, only special education and related services would be delivered in person. Governor Murphy wants all school districts to offer some in-person classes this fall. He also mentioned that reopening schools especially important for low-income and minority students with working parents who cannot afford to hire tutors or don't have room for their kids to do remote learning at home. At this time, New Jersey Education Association, the state's largest teachers union, is still analyzing the proposed bill. And as for COVID-19 stats and numbers, New Jersey reports of 261 new positive COVID-19 test results, pushing the cumulative total to 180,970. Sadly, New Jersey is reporting another 16 COVID-19 deaths, bringing the total to 13,934 lives lost. In Union Township, New Jersey, Carlo Valdez, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back.
Vacant schools and empty school buses without any passengers are scenes we've been witnessing across our country. Thank you so much, Carlo, for that report. Texas Governor Greg Abbott visits the Rio Grande Valley to assess Hurricane Hanna damage. And a Corpus Christi resident shares with us her hurricane experience. In Fort Worth, Lovely Anderson reports.
Thank you, Alan, and howdy from the Lone Star State. On Tuesday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott visited the Rio Grande Valley to meet with state legislators and local officials to discuss the state's ongoing response to COVID-19 and additional resources being sent to the region, as well as the Hurricane Hanna recovery efforts. The governor surveyed the damage in the valley caused by Hurricane Hanna. Following the meeting, the governor held a press conference where he announced that the McAllen Convention Center will be converted into a healthcare facility to help meet the region's hospital capacity needs during the COVID-19 pandemic. The healthcare facility will have capacity to treat a maximum of 250 patients and will be open later this week. It will be equipped with hospital beds, medical equipment, and medical staff. As communities in the Rio Grande Valley rebuild from Hurricane Hanna, I urge Texans in the area to be mindful of the threat still posed by COVID-19, said Governor Abbott. Meanwhile, we go to Corpus Christi, where local resident Carolyn Arwood shares how she and her husband braced themselves and their home during Hurricane Hanna's landfall. Let's take a look.
Well, as Hannah came in watching the news, of course, a strong Category 1, we prepared for mostly wind and flood, so preparing to be out of power. So we had flashlights. This year we did get a generator so that we didn't lose all the food in our refrigerator. A lot of the water runs off into our area, our backyard, so we were prepared. We didn't have them set out in the windows and the door sills, but we did have our sandbags ready in case the water started coming up so that we could prepare for that too, to not let the water breach our homes. So the morning of, my husband got the generator hooked up and ready in case we needed it. And then after that, it was just kind of sit and nervously wait for it to come in, to fill my time and kind of take my mind off of the anxiety of when is it coming in and seeing it build up. I continued to sew masks while I had a strong Category 1. Well, as Hannah came in watching the news, of course, a strong Category 1, we prepared for mostly wind and flood, so preparing to be out of power. So we had flashlights. This year we did get a generator so that we didn't lose all the food in our refrigerator. A lot of the water runs off into our area, our backyard, so we were prepared. We didn't have them set out in the windows and the door sills, but we did have our sandbags ready in case the water started coming up so that we could prepare for that too, to not let the water breach our homes. So the morning of, my husband got the generator hooked up and ready in case we needed it. And then after that, it was just kind of sit and nervously wait for it to come in, to fill my time and kind of take my mind off of the anxiety of when is it coming in and seeing it build up. I continued to sew masks while I had power, and actually during the storm, during the eye when it was arriving, I was making mask number 1700. Well, our property mostly received just broken plants. We had a couple small plants that uprooted, just broken limbs off of my plumeria plants. The ones that were not as sheltered from the wind took quite a beating. So that was basically the damage that we had. A lot of the neighbors around us had same thing, uprooted plants, broken limbs. We saw a lot of the palm tree fronds, coming off. The most surprising thing that we had, I don't know if you can see back over here behind me, there is a very large, heavy metal chase lounge that landed in our backyard. We have no idea which neighbor it came from. Tonight we'll be knocking on a few doors, seeing who is missing their chase lounge that blew 6 feet over the fence and landed in our backyard. We have a lot of tropical plants. I grow a lot of plumeria. I belong to the Plumeria Society. I love them. I have some fresh ones in my hair, and thank goodness it didn't strip them. I still have some blooms left, but it did break a lot of them where the limbs were big and they took a heavy beating. It did break those. I grow tea leaf. Most of the plants that I have, the tuberose and my plumeria, I grow to use for my traditional Hawaiian studies and dancing. I make my flower headpieces here. I make the lei and lei po'o that we wear on our head. So I grow them for that. But they got damaged. But plumeria are great around here. You can stick them in the ground and they'll grow. So I'm not worried about that. This one, because it was a not as high categorized hurricane, the anticipation was it wouldn't be quite as bad, but we did have, as far as I understand, like 90-mile-an-hour winds sustained, and even higher than that with some pretty strong gusts. So it was still scary getting ready for it, because this one hit during the day where if you had your windows open, you could see the palm trees blowing and the things blowing. My giant bird of paradise in front, I could see those limbs going like this, and I was afraid it was coming down. So being able to see it was kind of scary, but when Harvey hit, it hit at night and you couldn't see anything. And that was really scary, not knowing what was going on. And we secured everything and did what we could to prepare. And we were spared and dodged a bullet when it went a little bit south of us.
In Fort Worth, Texas, I'm Lovely Anderson. Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Now, Lovely, as an airline worker, you're having to go back to work this Saturday after a few months of volunteer unemployment. How does it feel making the transition from home to facing customers once again at the airport?
Going back to work this weekend I'm a little tense about it, but I'm confident enough with the company as well as TSA and everything that the local officials have provided here at our local airport that, they're taking special precautions to keep everybody monitored, temperatures, doing the safety precautions such as wearing gloves while we're at work, and we're going to be wearing face masks. So I'm confident. I'm a little tense because I haven't been to work in about 4 months, but coming back to work, I'm excited, but also just a little tense, but we'll see how it goes.
Completely understandable, Lovely, but to help with the tension, you could always start off the day with a good breakfast. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about near the end of our broadcast. So Chai already mentioned, I asked her sweet or salty. She said both. What about you? Sweet, salty, both, or a different classification? Can you give us a hint?
I would say I'd go with sweet.
Sweet. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I like sweet too. And I'm just going to say right now, mine is also sweet, but it's also salty, but salty first. Okay. Well, I can't wait to hear what you have for breakfast. And thank you again, Lovely, for your report.
Thank you, Alan.
Up next, more updates from our correspondents. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. Washington State's ground zero for COVID-19 has now been reported without positive cases. In Everett, Eagle News correspondent Michael Hudson reports.
Hey Alan, thanks for having me. Always good to see you. I have some pretty hopeful news for you today, but first let me share with you some of the COVID-19 stats for the Evergreen State. So as of right now, we are currently sitting at 54,985 positive cases and 1,555 deaths right now. So the Kirkland Life Center, which is referred as the ground zero for COVID-19 in Washington State, recently reported that the place now has 0% when it comes to positive cases. Nancy Butner, the Northwest Division Vice President of Life Care Centers of America, contributed the multitude of testing that has been done. She stated, making sure we're screening well, making sure we're doing some routine testing, wearing the PPE, monitoring staff, to ensure they're following guidelines for PPE management. So a portion of the staff are tested randomly every single week, she said, and if someone tests positive, Life Care tests the entire facility weekly until the facility has no new positive cases for at least 2 weeks. So initially, numerous patients and staff members contracted the virus back on March 9th, with the exact number being 129. Of those 129, 46 unfortunately passed away. So a key stat to note is that 65% of the deaths in the entire state have been related to long-term healthcare facilities. And though it's always a negative thing to have deaths, the positive is that the health department is now able to really pinpoint where most of the positive cases are stemming from, and now can develop more of a concrete plan to continue to battle and manage these cases. So it's still very important for all the residents here in Washington State to continue to obey the state guidelines concerning social distancing, as well as wearing the proper PPE. Reporting from Seattle, Washington, I'm Michael Hudson. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Michael, for that report. A 4.2 quake shakes Los Angeles. In North Hills, Eagle News correspondent Pro Rogacion has the story.
Thank you, Alan. A magnitude 4.2 earthquake shook the residents of Los Angeles early this morning at 4:29 a.m. with the epicenter in San Fernando. The Los Angeles Fire Department conducted their systematic survey to routinely assess by ground and air for any significant damages or injuries. They conclusively reported that there were no major damages to buildings, streets, and highways, including no serious injuries or fatalities due to this earthquake. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti tweeted, "While this morning's earthquake did not meet the 4.5 threshold to trigger our #ShakeAlertLA early warning, it was a reminder to be prepared for a big one." Shake Alert LA is the earthquake's early warning systems of Los Angeles that's officially launched last year in January as an early warning technology to alert Angelenos in the event of an earthquake. It is considered as the nation's first publicly available earthquake early warning mobile app. And this earthquake alert app is said to provide even seconds of early notifications to residents can take cover, stay safe, and ultimately minimize the effects and impacts of this kind of disaster. Los Angeles residents are highly encouraged to download this app to their mobile devices as it can save lives through this early warning of a major earthquake that is about to happen, so they can take the actions needed to protect themselves and their families. Angelenos should note that the app clearly states that it does not predict an earthquake, but communicates or signals that there is an earthquake occurring and provides emergency alerts for the safety of residents. This app is to provide assistance and not meant for people to solely rely on this technology. This only means that Los Angeles residents still needs to be vigilant in preparing their emergency kits and evacuation plans in the event of the so-called Big One. Practice earthquake drills at home and place of work. Make sure that you have a family and workplace emergency plan. Be aware of all evacuation routes at home and work, and have a disaster supply or emergency kit prepared and in place are some of the many things needed to be prepared in case of an earthquake or major disaster. Here are some young reactions we received regarding this early morning shake-up call. Let's take a look.
Yes, I did feel the earthquake this morning.
No, I did not feel the earthquake this morning. Yes, I did feel the earthquake this morning.
I was fast asleep this morning, so I did not feel the earthquake happen.
Yes, I did feel the earthquake, and it woke me up. I was in my bedroom when the earthquake happened.
I was asleep in my bedroom when the earthquake happened.
I was in my bedroom during the earthquake.
I was in my bedroom when the earthquake happened.
I was in my bed sleeping.
No, I was not scared because I was in my bedroom sleeping.
No, I was not scared when the earthquake happened. I was just a little bit scared because I felt earthquakes before in the past.
No, I was not scared when the earthquake happened, and I didn't really feel anything because I was still sleeping. Yes, I was kind of scared when the earthquake happened. I felt very overwhelmed.
This is how I reacted. What's that? What's going on? What's going on? Ah! Mommy! Mommy!
Reaction when the earthquake occurred, I jumped out of my bed to check if my family was okay, and my mom also jumped out of her bed to check what was going on.
My reaction to the earthquake was like this.
The California Earthquake Authority, or CEA, has cited the predictions of scientists that there's a more than 99% chance that one or more magnitude 6.7 or greater earthquakes will strike somewhere in California in the next 30 years. Although this morning's shake was far from the 6.7 magnitude Northridge earthquake that caused fatalities and billions of damages 26 years ago, it was a big enough jolt that brought a reminder to Angelinos that everyone needs to be prepared if they have not yet started. In Los Angeles County, the number of newly reported cases is 2,628 and 41 new deaths. The total number of confirmed cases in the county is 185,872 with 4,552 deaths and 2,022 current hospitalizations as announced today by the Los Angeles Public Health Department. Meanwhile, the state of California has a total of 488,260 confirmed COVID-19 cases and 8,953 deaths, as recorded by the Johns Hopkins University and Medicine Coronavirus Resources Center. In North Hills, California, Pearl Rugashun, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Wow, Pearl, those kids were so cute. And, speaking of kids, during the earthquake, you were home with your two young boys. Talk to us about that. What was their reaction like?
The earthquake, Alan, definitely woke us up. My husband and I, we stayed in bed. We were a little shocked, I guess. Then we waited for a few minutes just to see if our two kids or two boys would be running to our room. But nope, they were fast asleep. So we just decided to go back to bed or go back to sleep.
All right. Well, I can't blame your boy's reaction because actually when the earthquake happened, my wife woke me up. She had to wake me up. And actually when she woke me up, the first thing I asked her was, what's for breakfast? That's how much I noticed the earthquake. So we are going to be talking about breakfast in just a little bit. I'm going to pose the same question to you. When it comes to a good morning meal, Pearl, what do you like? Sweet, salty, a little bit of both, or a different category? Talk to us about it.
When I prepare breakfast, especially on weekends, it's a combination of the sweet and the salty for the two boys and my husband. So yeah, it's both.
Men after my own heart. Thanks, Pearl, for that report.
Thank you.
The Bay Area counties are looking to implement a no mask, pay a fine rule. In Fremont, Aika Chong has the details.
Here in Fremont, we currently have a total number of 10,896 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. As the number of confirmed cases continues to rise here in Alameda County, the Bay Area is looking to heavily enforce wearing a mask and social distancing policies on individuals who are not following the recommended guidelines. This is in response to the increasing rise in cases and to try and slow the spread of the virus before it overwhelms the community. To combat the spread and have everyone follow these policies, the Bay Area is looking to fine individuals who are not wearing a mask or following social distancing guidelines. Napa and Marin County have already been the first to approve fines of up to $500 for individuals who refuse to comply with the state and local orders. Officials are hoping that this will be extended throughout the entire Bay Area region. Fines between $25 to $500 will be given to those who refuse to wear a mask or social distance even after multiple warnings. Along with individuals, businesses can also be fined between $250 and $10,000 for failing to comply with health orders. California has now surpassed New York with the highest number of positive cases of the coronavirus in the country. This leaves the Bay Area counties to scramble to find the best possible solution to lower the amount of cases with the hope of returning to normal. Just last week, Governor Gavin Newsom reinstated the shelter-in-place order for Imperial County due to the rising numbers. The same may be done for Bay Area counties as well. It's unclear how the enforcement of wearing a mask and social distancing will do, but this new step partnered with the shelter-in-place order leaves community members hopeful that better change is coming. Although there is hope in the enforcement of the health orders, law enforcement officers are reluctant to implement them, especially now as citizens throughout the country continue to fight to defund the police. Despite this reluctance, the Bay Area continues to remain optimistic. To ensure the safety of the community and the overall improvement of the county's public health, we continue to ask community members to adhere to all health orders to decrease the amount of positive COVID-19 cases. From Fremont, California, Aika Chong, we live in interesting times.
And now for EBC Sports. Tampa Bay head coach talks about the upcoming season and its new quarterback, Tom Brady. EBC Sports correspondent Melissa Potes has the details.
With the cancellation of all preseason games, NFL teams around the country have started training camp as of this week. Tampa Bay head coach Bruce Arians gave his opinion on the league's ability to play 16 regular season games, as well as insight on Tom Brady's ability to acclimate to his new team.
Yeah, I'm very confident. I think, like I said, the protocols that are in place are extremely safe, and it's going to be coaches, players, and staff being smart outside the building. And, so that part of it, nobody's going to get sick over here because everybody's got a negative test that's in the building. So you're going to get sick somewhere else. And we've just got to have a lot of discipline this year. And I have a lot of confidence we'll get it done. Yeah, I think he's way ahead of the curve. I mean, he's a very bright guy. The terminology was the big thing. And as we now get together starting tomorrow, we'll have start to collaborate a little bit more. And so, yeah, I think he's in a great spot right now as far as that goes. Yeah, I think that's the big thing. It's a dual thing. Him learning what we do, me learning what he likes, meeting in the middle and doing a lot of different things. But I'm not going to ask the other 21 guys to learn something new when they've already had a good year and good experiences in the offense. So I would have liked to have had a couple preseason games, but it didn't work out that way.
Tune in to Eagle News for more updates and highlights on the start of the NFL season. In Orlando, Florida, Melissa Potes, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Now back to you, Alan.
Coming up, good morning meals. This is Eagle News America. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. Many say it's the most important meal of the day, and champions don't go on with their day without it. We're talking about breakfast. Tonight, we'll ask our Eagle News team what for them makes up the best good morning meal. So I have with me Chai, Pearl, and Lovely. Let's go first with Chai. Chai, we talked a little bit earlier. You said both salty and sweet. lay it on us. What is your good morning meal?
Well, first off, Alan, I have to have my cup of coffee. That's the first thing. As soon as I get up from, in the morning, that's probably at 6. That's usually at 6 in the morning. I have to have that to wake me up. And then, usually on a weekend, because when I'm working, I really don't have much time for breakfast. But on a weekend, my typical breakfast, well, I'm a very simple person, so it's just fried rice, fried egg, sunny side up egg, and sometimes a slice of luncheon meat or a sausage or a fried fish. But so that's kind of a full meal for me, but I have to have a piece of bread, whether it's a roll or, pandesal, or a piece of toast with peanut butter and jelly on it. That's why I said it's a combination of salty and sweet.
Chai, I don't know if you could tell, but my smile, I was just kept smiling. The more you mentioned, the more I was smiling. All of that just sounds incredible. So you can't go without coffee. Is it just black coffee, or do you have anything else in it?
No sugar, but with cream.
With cream, okay.
Yes.
Chai, have you ever tried not having coffee for a couple of mornings and see what kind of effect it had on you?
I did try that like 2 years ago because my doctor wanted me off coffee for a while.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, it's like your day is not complete without it. I'm a big coffee drinker, Alan, so I have to have my coffee.
Chai, I got to share, just as an experiment, because I would sometimes have coffee for sure in the morning, afternoon, late afternoon. So maybe 3-4 cups a day. And just out of curiosity, I decided, let me just cut cold turkey for a week and see what would happen. I can't tell you how aggressive I was towards everybody and just a kind of a bad mood I was in.
I don't know. Is that the effect of not having coffee or having coffee?
Maybe it's different for every person.
Right, because I know most people when they drink coffee, they can't sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's the opposite. When I take my coffee like late in the night, the more I feel sleepy. So that, I don't know the reason for that, Alan, but that's the effect of coffee for me.
I think you and I are the same, because late night, if I want to have a cup of coffee, and I'll tell you later what I put in my coffee, it's so soothing. If I have a piece of sweet whatever, a little bit of coffee, it actually puts me to sleep. I don't think caffeine has any effect on me anymore. So I really enjoyed hearing about your breakfast. And you said it's mostly, you can do a bigger breakfast on the weekend. Is that right?
Right, because I have more time. Yes, with my kids, the whole family. So, yeah. You have the luxury of time to prepare the breakfast, to eat it like at home. You don't rush, you can sleep in and then still have breakfast.
So Chai, the last question I'll ask you before I move on to our next correspondent is, you're making breakfast. Do you prefer to make breakfast for the whole family, or let me just make my own so I can enjoy my breakfast solo?
For the whole family, but since they usually, they don't get up like until 9 in the morning, so I go ahead and eat my breakfast by myself sometimes.
Okay, well, they'll have cold coffee for breakfast. Thanks, Chai. Let's move on to Pearl. Pearl, what is your good morning meal?
Okay, if I would have to choose, I'd be, my perfect breakfast would be just black coffee. But since I have 3 boys with me, my husband and 2 boys, then and with the situation right now, we pretend that we are in a restaurant, that they can order whatever they want. So with that, I would prepare a lot, starting from what they want to drink. So one would want an orange juice, and then one would want milk, and then iced coffee, and then one would want waffle or pancakes. So I would make pancakes and I would make waffle, and then I would make omelets with lots of vegetables, and then my little one would want a sunny side up egg, and my oldest one would want a scrambled egg. And then I would want Filipino breakfast wherein I would go to our backyard and see what I would want to eat, and I would pick fresh sweet potato tops with fresh tomatoes, and then I would pick a lemon, and then I would steam it, and put bagong on it and the lemon, and then rice, and then now I'm starving. And of course, we always have a homemade longanisa that I would pair with the rice and the steamed vegetables. So that would be our breakfast on weekends.
That sounds great. Wow, you provide breakfast made to order. Your boys are very, very fortunate. And Pearl, I like how you said, I have 3 boys. You included your husband. You include your husband when you said 3 boys. Why is that? Is he more of a child than your other 2?
Though it's how I've been describing them, because I'm the only girl or female in the family, and I have 3 boys because they would ask me to prepare breakfast for them. So yeah, he's one of the boys.
I got it. Yeah. And you mentioned bagoong. I know that's like a fermented shrimp paste that packs quite a wallop. So is there much talking after we eat that fermented shrimp paste, or do we kind of keep our distance from each other afterwards?
Yeah, I would leave them, and they have to do the dishes afterwards. So I can, that would be my excuse, I guess.
Well, that's a fair trade-off. Thank you, Pearl, for also mentioning your boys, your kids. And so as I go to Lovely, I know that your kids are also getting ready to go back to school. So I'm going to ask you, Lovely, what's your good morning meal? And could you also include what you're doing to prepare for your kids going back to school?
You know, Alan, I don't think I can top Pearl when she mentioned that bagong. I mean, she's got me hungry. I've got to do something like that. But you know what, Alan, I'm actually pretty blessed. Due to the COVID, I have my parents here from the Philippines, and I am living the life. I wake up every morning and I can just smell breakfast because my mom is cooking. She typically cooks French toast or pancakes for my boys, and then also maybe some sausages, some bacon, eggs with rice. It's the best thing while I have my mom here. Breakfast is like our first meal of the day, and we eat pretty good. And I can't forget, typically what I do is when I eat breakfast, I'm really close to my family in the Philippines, my Blanca side and Bataan. And we typically take pictures each day and we show each other what type of food we're eating. So that's usually my what I do in the morning.
Oh, lovely. That is just wonderful. And we're all family, right? So if I crash your place, I can go, Mom, Dad, how are you? And then ask for breakfast too. I'd be invited, right?
You know what? My mom is the typical Filipino. You're not going to go here. You're not going to leave the house on an empty stomach. She cooks as if she's cooking for a football team. So we eat plenty here, and there's plenty of food.
Yeah. What is your mom's name?
My mom's name is Lardita Blanca Anderson. And so my mom has to mix it up because my dad, obviously, he's American, he's Black. So she cooks a little bit of both to satisfy both sides. But believe it or not, my kids are as Filipino as can be because they can have all of that meat, the eggs and all of that. But if there's no rice cooked, it's not a good morning for them.
Well, it sounds like it will be a good morning for me once I visit, and I will be paying you a visit. Thank you, lovely Pearl and Chai. And before I let you go, I'll just talk about my breakfast. My breakfast is very simple. It's also, and we're talking about the perfect world where I have nothing to do the rest of the day. I can just rack up the calories. We're talking about salty, any kind of eggs over easy with Tabasco sauce and ketchup. That's the salty part. But I want to focus on the sweet part. For me, I like a toasted bagel, an everything bagel with the garlic and the onion on it. I like it with cream cheese and with orange marmalade and hot coffee. And that for me is a perfect breakfast. Thank you again for our group banter. And we thank all of our viewers for watching our broadcast today. And before we go, we'd like to continue to thank our frontline and essential workers with A round of applause. Again, we appreciate you. That is today's Eagle News America. Thank you for joining us. I'm Albus Oyahe. We live in interesting times.